Good afternoon, listeners. Welcome to another of MVL's Writer's Block. Hope you're enjoying your Monday. Today we've got a special guest on, an award-winning published poet and professor here in Manhattanville, Professor Joseph Fasano. What's up, Joe?
How are you, Mike?
Doing pretty well.
Good.
Enjoying your Monday?
Oh yeah. Just came off teaching, so feeling good.
So first up, just want to know a little bit about your background, like where you were growing up, any
Sure, yeah.
education. What do you think is essential to us knowing you?
Oh God, I don't know, but a lot of my poems are set in a setting that's not urban. I guess I'll say that.
Okay.
I'm from a little town called Goshen, New York, in Orange County, which I sometimes describe as upstate. It seems anything that's sort of north of Bear Mountain State Park might be upstate, but it's only about an hour and a half northwest of here. But yeah, I grew up there and spent my whole childhood there. I did my undergrad at Harvard, studied philosophy there.
Mhm.
I don't know if that's essential to knowing me, but there certainly are, I guess I'd say philosophical things in my writing, but I try not to be too explicitly heady. That is to say, I like for my writing to communicate itself viscerally and immediately, which is a big ambition.
Yeah.
But I'd love to let that happen. But yeah.
Very painterly, trying to get all these high ideas into something so immediate.
Yeah, painterly is a good word. I think of, certainly not in comparison to mine, but a poet that I admire greatly would be Rilke, Rainer Maria Rilke, who I think did this better than really anybody. He has this ability to write these long meditative poems that you wouldn't be wrong calling them philosophical, like the Duino elegies, for example. But they're viscerally, physically immediate. He gets you thinking. Ashbery can do this too in a very different tone, but than Rilke. But I admire that kind of work.
Okay, so you admire Rilke a lot, and are there any philosophers or philosophies you feel like?
Philosophers or philosophies. When I was an undergraduate, I studied the philosophy of language. Of course, you hardly need me to tell you that, but yeah, it's rare that I read a sort of philosopher and say that person changed my whole outlook on things. But I think that is true of Wittgenstein, Ludwig Wittgenstein, who says that the meaning of a word is its use in the language, which sort of liberates us instead of thinking about how something corresponds or correlates to a truth out there in some objective reality. It's about how we talk to one another. So I think if I would recommend one philosophical text off the top of my head for writers, it would be Ludwig Wittgenstein's Philosophical Investigations, and it's written in that kind of way. These little vignettes and little passages, little fragments, and it sort of allows you to read it systematically if you want, but also just sort of dip in and get little gems here and there. He's really, really wonderful writer and thinker.
Very nice.
Yeah.
So, do you have any poems that you would like to start off with?
Yeah, sure. I was glad you asked me to start off with something that I don't really read all that much. Truth is, a lot of the poems in my second book, Inheritance, which just came out in May, actually haven't read them all that much. I took a break from doing readings all summer. I was writing. So I'll read this one, which is called The Figure. You sit at a window and listen to your father crossing the dark grasses of the fields toward you, a moon soaking through his shoes as he shuffles the wind aside, the night in his hands like an empty bridle. How long have we been this way? You ask him. It must be ages, the wind answers. It must be the music of the wind turning your fingers to glass, turning the furniture of childhood to the colors of horses, turning them away. Your father is still crossing the acres, a light on his tongue, like a small coin from an empire that has always been ruined. Now the dark flocks are drifting through his shoulders with an odor of lavender, an odor of gold. Now he has turned as though to go, but only knelt down with the heavy oars of October on his forearms to begin the horrible rowing. You sit in a chair in the room. The wind lies open on your lap like the score of a life you did not measure. You rise, you Turn back to the room and repeat what you know. The earth is not a home. The night is not an empty bridle in the hands of a man crossing a field with a new moon in his old wool. We abandon the dead. We abandon them.
Very beautiful.
Thank you. Thank you.
So, curious about this father figure in the poem. He
Oh, yeah.
seems to be, as you said, you're in a very rural setting. He seems to be connected to a lot of natural imagery, and then I even picked up on a few like royal images as well, like lavender, gold.
That's right, yeah. So the imperial purple.
Yeah.
Yes, that's right.
So, I'm guessing he's a very like, how do I want to phrase this?
Well, you're not wrong in suggesting that there's something royal or epic or grand about the archetype of the father itself, which is to say, even though I think the poem is rather stark, I hadn't thought of it that way, but I think, yeah, the poem is rather stark in its landscape, but there is this figure who has this kind of opulent royalty about him. I don't think he has it in any literal sense. I think it's just, isn't that true? Isn't it, whether it's, the father, whatever that means to you.
Right.
In this poem, the father is a present absence, I think. It's always that kind of powerful figure, isn't it? Right. Where maybe the poem dresses him up in those things because he has them.
He's there, and he's at the same time just as ephemeral as the wind that you mentioned in the poem as well.
Yeah.
So, and it also seems like he's disappearing off into some sort of barren landscape. Where are you trying to go with this?
I don't know. You and I were talking the other day about the cover of this book, Inheritance, which we may as well mention now.
It's Vincent van Gogh painting.
Yeah, it's Vincent van Gogh's painting. It's an undergrowth with two figures, and it's exactly that. It's a man and a woman in a forest with some wildflower undergrowth. And you're mentioning receding. The painting, I think, appeals to me for a lot of reasons. Very few of them can be articulated. But yes, it seems like they're coming toward the viewer. It also seems like they're receding. It seems like they're part of the environment. It also seems like they're two sore thumbs in the environment. So I don't know. I mean, you're asking if there's something natural about. Of course, there's something natural about the father. Right. If this man in this picture evokes that as well, but there's also something that I don't want to say it's unnatural, but it stands out as a governing force in the landscape.
He's the only one in that field. He's the only one we can visibly understand, rather than all these individual things. Like, I'm just imagining a large fields, and he's the only one there in the moonlight.
It seems like he's trying to bring things into some measure of order.
Right. He's got a bridle in his hand.
Yeah, exactly. Yes, it's an image I come back to a lot. Maybe too much, but yes, I mean, there's something very tender about a bridle. There's also something very violent about it as well. You've got to break a horse before you put a bridle on it.
Right.
And so the image of an empty bridle, I don't know. To me, it just seems to resonate with all of those feelings of both tenderness and whatever the opposite is to you. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely a very authoritative image for him. And then, there's one other thing. Do you want to put
Yeah, of course.
Also, there's just a very observational tone. You're sitting in this room, looking around, looking at him. Is this at all trying to evoke, like, a personal feeling of looking for
searching, yeah.
For anything in particular? Or?
Yeah, I suppose I hadn't necessarily thought of it that way. I just think there's something very the you in the poem that the speaker addresses, because after all, it is in the second person, right? So it's addressing the you, which of course is the first person as well, isn't it? It's always, when you say you in a poem, it's always the speaker himself. But the person is in a passive position. The person is sitting and turning back into the room. I don't know. I mean, it seems to me a question that I could ask just as much as anyone, which is to say, why doesn't this person get up and go out there?
Right.
Other than the idea that maybe this person understands the illusion, that it is an illusion.
Because you are an observer observing an observer observing.
Yeah, it's kind of like a funhouse mirror, right? Yeah.
Very excellent.